Good morning, my name is Oleksandr, and I want to thank everybody who joins us in Ukraine Media Center who can inform today. It's been 10 years of the war, and today's day 685 of the full-scale invasion of our country by Russian aggressor. And we will start our day today with conversation about bad weather in Ukraine. We will talk about the weather forecast and mitigation of consequences of bad weather. Joining us in our studio are Natalia, Ptukha, head of the Media Communication Department of the Ukrainian Hydrometeorological Center of the State Emergency Service, and Oleksandr Khorunzhyy, press officer of the State Emergency Service of Ukraine. Good morning, Miss Natalia. So let's talk about bad weather and the weather forecast. What should we expect for within the next couple of days? Good morning everybody who joins us in the studio and online. Yes, the weather was real bad. We had some serious precipitation, specifically in the southern and central parts of Ukraine, due to the cyclone that unfolded over the Black Sea. Somewhere in the southern regions, in Dnipropetrovsk and Kirovograd region, there was an ice crust on the branches of the trees and cables, aerial lines. And somewhere in Kirovograd and Dnipropetrovsk regions, the thickness of the crust was up to 25 millimeters, the maximum we've documented at our meteorological stations. There were the gusts of wind, specifically on Sunday and Monday. Today the cyclone has withdrawn, and now an anticyclone starts influencing the weather in Ukraine. The weather is more calm, but still the temperature is below zero in all parts of Ukraine. The lowest is the temperature in the northern regions, in Chernihiv and Sumy region. Today was the coldest night, specifically in the northern regions, northern parts of Sumy and Chernihiv region. The temperature reached 25 degrees below zero, and definitely under situations like this the population should react properly, at least dress themselves properly. Now the weather is being stabilized. First of all, the temperature will go up. The Arctic air that created this weather, well, its influence will be weakening, and we don't expect any more frost within the days coming. On Wednesday and Thursday the temperature is about to grow up, however it will remain below zero. Well, maybe somewhere in the south we will have temperature above zero that will destroy the ice crust that was created, as I mentioned, but in the night hours the temperature will be below zero, 7, 12 degrees below, almost in all regions of Ukraine. On Thursday, the night temperature will be from 2 to 8 degrees below zero. In southern regions and Crimea, the temperature may be closer to 0 degrees. But on Friday, we expect to see the new atmospheric front coming from the northwest that will result in additional precipitations. There will be like minor snow, and also the temperature will again go down because there will be another portion of northern air from the Arctic coming our way. According to the calculations that we have for the time being, we don't expect the temperature to fall as low as 25 below zero, but maybe down to 20, specifically in northern regions or northern part of the northern regions. And at least within a week or 10 days the temperature all over Ukraine will be below zero. Also, it's worth mentioning that such weather favors the creation of ice in the rivers. In some places it may be stable because we see the temperature is pretty low, but also pay attention to the fact that it's a short-term effect and there is fluctuation of temperature, and it still influences on the strongness of ice. Yeah, but again, please remember that there is ice on the river, so don't walk out on that ice. Miss Natalia, can we already predict something that we may expect in the second half of January? Can we forecast something? Well, according to the preliminary forecast, we are looking mostly at the second second 10 days or second and third week of January, and we expect the classic winter January weather is within the climatic standard for the month of January, but according to the calculations of our specialists based on the global processes, January, the average monthly temperature of January will be 1 or 1.5 degrees above the standard January norm. Obviously, we may expect some exclusions to those rules, because you should always remember that weather forecast is the scientifically based thought, but not a 100% guarantee about what the weather will look like. Dear colleagues, if you don't have any questions, I will have a question. What is the situation in the Black Sea? Because it's pretty important for us. Well, during the passage of cyclone, during the weekend and weekdays, the gusts of wind reached the velocity of 15 to 20 kilometers or meters per second. But the weather is about to stabilize shortly and to be more calm within the next week. Thank you very much, Mr. Oleksandr. You're kindly invited to the microphone. Let's talk about the consequences of this bad weather. There are some regions where people suffer from the power shutdown that resulted from bad weather conditions. So what is the situation with power supply, and what is the situation in the roadways? Good morning, everybody. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes. Yes, we've received notifications, storm notifications, and operative information from Hydrometeorological Center about the frost and gusts of wind. We react properly, we always do, and I want to remind everybody that State Emergency Service has the special material prepared for bad weather. About 1,200 rescue units or units of rescue material are prepared, 350 emergency, and more than 2,500 all-terrain vehicles. All of them are prepared to mitigate the consequences of bad weather for the population and critical infrastructure. We have about 3,500 mobile power stations to mitigate the consequences of bad weather. Talking about the situation in the country, according to the information from Ukrenergo, the gusts of wind and resulted in shutdowns in 1,100 settlements in Odessa, Dnipropetrovsk, Mykolaiv, and Kharkiv regions. To re-establish the power supply, we've engaged the Oblenergo teams. The factors that influenced it was the ice crust on the cable and the drastic gusts of wind. Talking about the situation in the roads, according to the information from the Infrastructure Establishment Services, due to ice crust and wind gusts, there was a restriction imposed for the passage of cargo trucks and buses in 5 sections of main ways all across Ukraine. For the time being, there is only one restriction in effect in Kropivnitsky region, in Kropivnitsky Platonova section of the road. We had a staff deployed for mitigation of emergency consequences, but starting from 8 o'clock in the morning, the operation of the staff was ceased due to stabilization of the situation, and further on, according to the forecast and operative situation, its operation may be re-established further on. Talking about this general situation with the resilience stations, I would like to touch upon that issue because the temperature is falling below zero and people may visit the resilience stations. They are deployed exactly for cases like this, to help people to get heated, to recharge their gadgets, their phones. The people may drink some hot tea and get heated in the resilience stations. They are equipped with generators, the heaters, hot tea. So again, people may wait for the bad weather to pass at such resilience stations. We have more than 1,000 of them deployed, specifically 1,005 resilience stations deployed by State Emergency Service all around the country. About 750 are stationary and 250 are mobile resilience stations based in the tents, but there are more mobile stations that are based on the vehicles that can be deployed where in the emergency situations where it's necessary, for example during huge traffic gaps which resulted from bad weather. So we were able to provide help to more than 640,000 persons in such resilience stations. And starting from the 1st of October 23, when the weather started getting worse, 8,000 people received aid at the resilience stations all around Ukraine. And talking about the work of State Emergency Service in the roadways, according to the information from State Agency for Renewal and Development of Infrastructure, more than 800 units of material and more than 1,000 personnel are on duty to properly react to the consequences of worsening weather. We've had 114 calls, including 78 missions to hold the cars that were not able to move by themselves. We also have to hold 12 medical emergency vehicles, ambulances, and 4 buses, which were ridden by more than 40 persons. We had 39 more missions to clear the fallen trees that fell due to the strong gusts of wind. So that was the work done by the State Emergency Service. Also, I would like to mention that on the 8th of January, due to the worsened weather conditions in Kryvyi Rih, there were 8 boiler rooms disconnected from power supply, but we've helped to reestablish the power supply of the boiler rooms that switched to generators, and the heat supply was reestablished to the full extent. So we've worked quite rapidly and didn't let the people freeze. So this is the way we learn to work. We learn to work during battle operations and in case of worsening weather conditions. Also, I would like to mention that due to the frosty days, we have a number of fires increased from the beginning of the year. People started using their fireplaces, heating devices, and stuff like that. Within the last days, we've documented 153 fires, and during the same period of the year 23, we've documented 132 fires, and since the beginning of the year, we've documented 934 fires, and within the same period of the year 23, we've documented 838 fires. So we see the growth of 11.5% this year. Since the beginning of the year, 56 persons died due to fires, and within the same period of the last year, it was 36.6% lower. So we see that the frosts result in the active operation of the heating devices. People try to heat themselves, but unfortunately we document the cases of violation of fire safety rules and personal safety rules. Just a fresh example from Odessa region: 3 small girls got poisoned with a gas upon use of the generator in a private residence. So no matter how much we repeat that the generators cannot be used in at homes, people keep violating that rule and get poisoned with the gas. Such poisoning may result from improper operation of gas equipment because the gas is invisible. However, it results in quite difficult consequences. Talking about the casualties, fortunately, we have the decrease of number of casualties this year. Well, Mr. Oleksandr, getting back to the topic of proper operation of the roadways, is it safe to say that they're all open now and the movement is reestablished? In fact, so. In fact, yes. I've just mentioned one section that where the instructions were imposed from this morning, but I think that the state road service will lift the restriction for the cargo trucks and buses to avoid traffic gaps because there's ice crust on the roads, and this mechanism is just one of the mechanisms of adequate reaction to avoid the creation of gaps in the road. As we mentioned, the temperature was falling sharply during the last days. Do you have any documented cases of people with frostbites? Well, we have such documentation of cases when people come to the resilience stations. So about 300 to 400 people come every day to our resilience stations, and we don't refuse anybody. Every single citizen is allowed to enter any facility of the fire and rescue service or state emergency service resilience stations to get any kind of aid, even the basic medical aid in case of necessity. So please come, we don't refuse anybody. So there were no fatal cases documented by state emergency service. Well, we don't have any such cases documented by us, but we have to double check with the national police or from the ambulance, from the medical institutions, because they are the ones who deal first with such cases, because our basic function is the rescue of people, rescue of property. So in case of casualties, you better ask national police. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. Do we have any questions on the floor? Irina Kožuchar, Ukrinform. I just wanted to double check, do I understand it properly that there are no casualties among the rescuers, among those who were providing aid? No, there are no casualties among the rescuers, among the state emergency service personnel. No one got frozen, no one got frostbites. We have no problems with health. We tried to provide, well, we don't try, but we do provide all the rescuers with the warm clothing, winter clothing. So no, there were no cases like that. So as I mentioned, I have a last question. As a representative of Hydrometeorological Center mentioned, we have fluctuations of temperature, and we see it on our rivers, on the other water reservoirs where ice is created and where it is unstable. What is the situation with this? Do you document any cases of violation of safety rules in the water reservoirs? And maybe you may provide some advice. Oh, just a little bit of statistics, figures like always. Since the beginning of year 2024, we've documented the death of 9 people in water reservoirs. In the year 23, during the same period, it was 12 casualties during this period, and we were able to rescue 9 people, including 1 child. So yes, there are cases, even regardless the decrease compared to the previous year, and I would like first of all to urge the parents to brief the children properly that even during the frosty weather they should not stay on ice by themselves. So please do the preventive briefing with your children. Explain them where the ice is not stable everywhere, there are underwater currents, and during the weather fluctuations the ice may be unstable on the water bodies. That may result in a person just falling under the ice, and given temperature like this, it's not always possible to pull a person out, so please work specifically with your children, pay specific attention. Again, I'm reminding you that the thickness of ice should be at least 7 centimeters or at least 10 to 15 centimeters for people to be able to walk on ice. I know that I'm not holding any fisherman bag because it can be compared maybe to some illness, you know. People will keep coming to ice to fish. So I'm talking specifically to the fishermen. If you walk out on the ice, please don't go by yourself. Don't go on your own. Please keep an eye on each other just in case you can provide emergency aid, or to make sure that a person who sees you in a bad situation can call 101 and we react properly. Please take ropes with you to throw it to a person who fell under the ice and pull them. And you know, if you do fall under the ice, try not to help you with your hands, but rather try to roll over the ice on your back, and with the back, you know, to cover the maximum possible area with which you touch the ice and crawl onto the ice. So that's a small briefing, but that advice is quite efficient. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for finding time to join our broadcast, our dear colleagues. Our next briefing will be at 12 o'clock. We will be talking about the situation in the borders with Poland. We will talk about the consequences of blocking, so stay tuned and we continue working together for our victory. Let's thank together our security and defense forces, and glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes. Thank you.